Hello and welcome. We're going to start today down onto our belly, so let's make our way down nice and carefully by taking ourselves into a tabletop and then lowering ourselves down, not collapsing through the spine, but pulling the belly in and bracing and using the arms to draw us down. And then from there I'm going to widen the legs out just a little bit to hip distance apart, placing the tops of the feet down, turning the elbows out to the sides of the mat and placing the forehead down onto the backs of the hands. From this position, start to feel the back of your heart center. See if you can breathe space between the shoulder blades here. See if you can press a little bit down with your pubic bone and feel the way that the tailbone will scoop towards your heels. See if you can press lightly down with the tops of your feet and feel the thighs zipping upwards towards the pelvis. The kneecaps might feel like they're very subtly going to lift. See if you can extend a little bit through the neck and soften around the edges of your face. The brow, and the jaw, and the tongue, and the eyes, all softening. There is a light, subtle engagement here as we prepare our mind, our breath, and our body for the practice that comes. Nice, slow breaths as we draw ourselves into this crocodile pose. From here I'm going to inhale and lift the chest a little and work the elbows back in beside the torso. Landing those elbows down, the forearms come flat and underneath my shoulders are my elbows, just so I've got a little bit of extra support there. I'm still going to engage through the legs, this time a little bit more as I press the tops of the feet down. I might even feel like my kneecaps are going to lift away from the earth. That's going to help me engage through the glutes there as I press down again. Through the pubic bone, I'm going to see if I can lift my glutes, my bottom, my buttocks up towards the lower back. I'm pulling the belly in lightly and I'm going to see if I can, almost like I'm dragging my elbows and palms back for Sphinx pose, lifting my chest, and I'm not cranking there through the neck. I'm going to resist that temptation, softening up through the shoulders again and through the neck, finding some space, breathing slowly and rhythmically. I'm seeking an evenness here between my inhale and my exhale. Remembering this is all about limbering, finding space, creating some movement through our joints today. Relax a little there so you can return the hands now underneath the shoulders. Use the palms down into the earth to lift the pelvis first. So I want to use the pelvis, bring it back, and then into a tabletop position. For anything like me, that means you have to shorten a little bit with the knees in, landing the palms again underneath those shoulders and activating them down, pressing them down into the earth. So there's no collapse here. I want to think about a little bit of a round through the upper back, and then I pull the belly in towards the spine here to brace. From there, I'm going to start to take one heel back. I'm pointing the toes down towards the earth just to open up a little bit through the back of the leg here. Taking a breath, and if I'd like to, and keeping some softness through the elbow, I'll take the opposite hand and lift it up. Again, there's an elongation through the spine, so if I'm gazing forward, there might be a bit too much flexion at the neck. I can take a gaze forward just to look at the hand, but then I really want to gaze down at the mat again. Length to the spine, crown of head to tailbone. I can also, if I need to, place a hand around my abdomen and watch if I've dropped my hip, and that can be a really good indicator of what I need to do to stay engaged in the pose. I'm going to inhale and place that hand back down for some stability. Knees going to come down. We even it up for a second just by pressing the tailbone away, coming back to neutral. And then I'll switch it across the opposite side, lifting the heel up, dialing toes down. Again, if I'm feeling okay and I haven't locked that elbow into place, it's nice and soft, I can lift the opposite hand up. Again, I can pull the toes back towards the shin, and that's going to help me open up through the back of the leg. I can also take a hand there, yes, if I've dropped a hip, if it's lowering down to kind of cheat out of the pose a bit. I'm going to lift that hip a little bit higher, to make it more challenging. Inhaling from there, let's come out. Place a hand down to the earth. Knees going to come down. Hips here are going to come back. Big toes touch. Let's bring it into child's pose. Pressing all the way back for a deep breath in and deep breath out. Let's come back and find our tabletop, fingers spread wide, thumbs now feeling like they're going to squeeze towards each other, although the palms don't move. I tuck the toes under and I'm going to kick the heels away into plank pose. Belly is pulling in. At any point in time, if this gets a bit intense, you just drop your knees for a rest. Come back into it when you need. Now that same action is going to happen like I'm pushing down into the earth and I'm drawing the tailbone away from me, bringing the pubic bone in towards the navel center. There's a little bit of a scoop, long spine. Again, I'm resisting the temptation to crank the neck, just gazing a little bit down, building some heat here. Downward facing dog when you're ready. If that's not right for you, come back to child's pose as we just did. Knees are soft, heels work down now. As we open up through the back line of the body a little bit more. And then inhaling, let's come forward one more time. Find that plank, pushing palms down into earth, belly in towards spine. Nice deep breaths. Listen to the rhythm of your breath here. You might need to pop the knees down and have a rest. That's okay. Building some strength. Be patient with yourself. Might have been quite some time since you've been on your mat. Give yourself permission to rest. Let's come back, downward facing dog. Heels down towards the earth. Now we're going to come forward again into our tabletop. And this time we're going to make our way down to the earth in a one-way push-up. So elbows point back towards the ribs. They don't fly out to the side, so I suck them in. Elbows grazing ribs on way down. Once the chest touches, I can slide that pubic bone forward and come through Bhujangasana or Cobra. From here, I can lift the hands up, just making sure that I am using the strength of my back to hold me in this pose. Getting nice and long. And then relaxing, releasing. From here, use again your hands into the earth to lift the pelvis up. Find that little bit of a shortened tabletop so your knees fall below your hips again. Now from here, again, I'm going to take a leg back, kicking heel back, finding that long spine. And this is where I might stay. However, if you do want to come a little bit further today, then you might bend your knee and work the opposite hand around to catch hold of the foot. If you're here, again, make sure you haven't just stabilized by locking the elbow. You're going to bend the elbow just slightly and bring the upper arm in towards your underarm whilst pressing down with your index finger and thumb. Now, if you've caught hold of your foot, you can gently press that foot back into hand and see if you can rise the thigh on up. Again, watch for the swing of the hips. Both sit bones want to press backwards, so you've got a nice long spine there. This is a twist. It's also going to open up through the front of your thigh quite dramatically there. And you might also feel it into the hip crease. I release the foot nice and gently, bringing your hand back down to the earth now. Knee comes down to meet as well. For a second, as we did before, we stay here, pressing the hips back, crown of the head forward, and breathing. And then let's go to the opposite side, kicking heel back, finding that shape first. Softness through the elbow, length through the body. Ask yourself if you need to or want to move further today. Sometimes what our body needs and what we want are at odds with each other. Sometimes they're in sync. If they're in sync, it feels really great. If they're at odds, maybe it doesn't feel great, but you need to listen to what you need over what you want. Otherwise, we draw ourselves into pain. And that's counterproductive to our yoga practice. Our yoga practice is really about preparing the body for our day, not punishing ourselves. Tailbone long. Belly bracing. Hip flexor opening here quite strongly, the front of the thigh strongly, so back it off if it's too strong. And release when you're ready. Again, we're going to come back into child's pose. This time I'm going to make it a wider knee variation, so I'm walking my hands back towards me and then taking the knees out wide. Hips will sink down between the heels as we start to open up a little bit more through the hips, lifting up and then walking it forward. This time really into the groin, so the inner thigh gets a stretch as we press the hips back. And then lifting the chest on up, we'll see if we can make a little twist from here. I'm going to shorten my stretch off, my reach off just a little bit by walking my left hand back in, perhaps just half a step in, and that'll give me a little bit more height and a little bit more space. And then from there I'm going to flip my right palm up underneath the underarm and slide it away, landing the upper arm down to the earth, shoulder down to the earth. And I'll gaze underneath that underarm. Inhaling from there, I'm using that left palm to bring me up. And again, it's a little bit of a shortened reach. I'm not going to my absolute max. Just so I've got a bit more height. Right palm is down to earth. Left palm now is going to flip up underneath that right underarm as I draw it away. And I land the upper arm down to the earth, just making it comfortable, making any adjustments I need to make it comfortable. Helping me to open up around the shoulder blade and into that upper back. And then using that palm once again to bring me back up. Now to come out of this one, I'm going to walk my hands back towards me underneath the ribs again so that I can bring the knees in towards each other. Now we're going to do something very, very similar here. When we bring our arms in front of our chest to open up, again through the back of the arms. This time I'm going to do it in a laying down position. So I'll work myself forward once again and down to the earth, just like we did at the start of class. Pulling belly in, drawing forward, pointing the elbows back so that they graze the ribs on the way down. Now from here, I'm going to need a little bit of a lift. So I press one palm down to bring an arm in front. Now if I go too far, I'll need to slide it back so that it's comfortable. Opposite arm then is going to come in front. Palms are facing up, and I'm dropping my chin towards my chest. If this doesn't feel right to let your head hang, by the way, you may need a little prop underneath your forehead. So grab a cushion, maybe a couple of cushions, something that's a bit high so that you've got something to rest the forehead on. I can usually get my chin just to rest on my upper arm, which feels quite nice. However, you can also let the head hang if that feels good for you. Just like we did in crocodile pose, I'm going to see if I can expand the breath into the back muscles there between the shoulder blades, opening up the back of the heart center. Really important there that I'm finding that stretch, but it's not at the expense of my lower back here. So I'm still pressing down with my pubic bone, sarking the belly just lightly up. It's a very light activation. Tops of the feet lightly pressing down, tailbone then feels like it's moving away towards the heels. Inhaling from there, that front arm's got to release first. So I'm bringing it around in an arc, and then I can move the opposite one out. I'm taking it down to the earth because yes, of course, we're going back in the opposite direction. So I'm sliding an arm forward. If I go too far, I'm bringing it back because I want it to be comfortable. And then the opposite arm comes around, lifting the heart. And you'll see I always kind of check, have I got evenness between the arms? If one arm is out a lot further, then I'm going to even it up. I should be able to get my heart parallel to the earth. Exhaling now and dropping down. And slowly releasing here. Top arm has to release first. It comes underneath the shoulder and we're going to bring it back. Just take a cheek down to the earth. Let the palms come back beside your hips. Let the shoulders round forward to relax them and have a couple of breaths. And then from there we'll release. Hands will come underneath shoulders again, pressing yourself back to child's pose. Big toes touch, reaching forward, dropping the chest down. And finally maybe giving those hips a bit of a swing from side to side. Walking your hands back in towards your thighs, when you're ready. Now is the time to come into your meditation practice, or spend a couple of minutes in Shavasana just to feel the weight of your body and reconnect to self. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.